ahead and hit. Fantastic. So he's now hit record. So anybody who can't make it right now, they'll be able to catch the replay. What I want to remind everybody is that the chat is available. So make sure you use the chat. If there's something that reaches you, type it in the chat. There's an interactive presentation. And then the other thing I want to let you know is that at the end, he's going to open it up for questions and answers. So make sure if you have a question that you either put it in the chat or wait till the end to ask it so that Dr. Briggs can answer your question. It gives me an honor to be able to introduce Dr. Cori Briggs. I've known him for quite some time. He's an international speaker, he's a coach, he's a trainer, he's a leader, and he's the founder of Algorithms for Progressive Growth. That's Algorithms for Progressive Growth. How do you move forward in your business or your organization? This is his own technology that he created. And he has many years of leadership and training experience. And I believe that he's going to share some information that'll be definitely enlightening for you. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to get your paper out, your pen out, your iPad, your notepad, whatever it is you're going to take notes with, because note takers are money makers. I'm going to say that again. Note takers are money makers, and you definitely want to catch what Dr. Briggs is sharing. So it gives me an honor to bring to the microphone right now none other than Dr. Cori Briggs. Dr. Briggs, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can. And here's what I want everybody to do. If you can hear me and you heard Dr. Briggs, just do me a favor and put a 1 in the chat. Just do me a favor right now. Go to the chat and just put a number 1. And that lets us know that you can hear me and that you can hear Dr. Briggs. Great. I see him coming in right now. Dr. Briggs, go ahead, take it away.
You got it. Well, first, I want to thank Otis and the School of Leadership and Development for having the opportunity to be able to share with you all this evening, as well as Dr. West. And I want to take time to acknowledge all the other facilitators that have come before me that will also, the facilitators that will also come after. So, you know, leadership is something that I have a great passion for. And like Dr. West said, with leadership, there are always an abundance of challenges that come along with it. If I may, I want to try to do something a little different. And I know typically when there's a lecture or you show for a lecture, you kind of wait to the end and get all the questions at the end. Something that I want to attempt to do with you all, because I want to make sure that you stay engaged. We have an exchange of energy throughout. At different times, I'm going to pause and allow for us to share some dialogue as we go through the presentation. I think by doing so, it'll be a little bit more beneficial for you. And in preparation, I asked Otis as well as Dr. West, you know, truly, what is it that we want to be able to accomplish and be able to deliver in these lessons, if you will? And one thing that Dr. West told me, he said, look, you know, one reason why I wanted you to be able to present was I also want you to be able to give them some real life examples. And so in that, I feel like if we're able to have a dialogue real time, it definitely will be more beneficial for our engagement and truly what you'll be able to walk away with. Now, this is the 4th semester, if I'm correct, right, of the executive program. I did put together some PowerPoint slides to be able to share and also create some different visuals as everybody learns differently. Some people are more auditory, some people are more visual. I want to be able to put the two together. But one thing I want to make note of is the executive graduate program. I just started looking at that word executive. And even looking at the word executive, if you break it down, the root word of that is to execute. Is to execute. So when you talk about developing leaders and individuals becoming an executive, what does that really mean? What does it mean to be an executive? Because if you're giving the title or the role of executive, you have been bestowed an amount of power to put plans, actions, or some type of law into effect. To be an executive, to be a leader is something that is action oriented. I'm going to say that again. To be a leader is something that is action oriented, because in order to execute something, you have to be able to carry out a particular plan or put that particular plan into effect, right? For it to take action. I think sometimes people get a certain title, excuse me, and in having that title, they then become absent of the action that truly elevates what that title means. I just want you to think about that for a second, because if you've chosen to participate in any type of school of development that pertains to you as a leader, that's something that you have to be very cognizant of, because there's a great responsibility that comes along with leadership. And I'll never forget someone telling me very earlier on in my path as a leader that, hey, look, Cori, if you start walking and you turn around and you can't see anybody behind you, there's nobody following you, well, you're not a leader, you're just taking a walk. And so to be a leader is to influence others. And in being able to influence others, what are you able to get other people to execute on? All right. So as we dive into this section, I'm going to attempt to do a screen share here. Is it okay? Otis, can you turn over the ability for me to be able to screen share so that I can share my PowerPoint with the group, please?
Okay, sir. Let me do that.
Thank you very much. But as Otis is taking care of that, in this particular section, we're going to talk about cooperative leadership development. Now, in this session, this is to prepare each of you to be able to execute. I'm going to say that again, to be able to execute well and have confidence, speed, and the resources to move fast as new opportunities come your way. I once learned that luck is surely being prepared when opportunity arises. So this is to help you be able to link together people, strategy, and operations. I'm going to say that again. This is to help you be able to link together people, strategy, and operations. These are the three core elements of every organization, no matter how small or how large. So let's go here. 1 second. Nope. Where's what I'm looking for? Give me 1 second. I do apologize. I'm just trying to be able to start the PowerPoint from the very beginning. Actually, you know what? I might leave it in this format so that I can continue to see everyone else as I go through the, let me see. There we go. That's what I needed to do. All right. All right. So again, the cooperative leadership development. Again, I try to do a good job of stating what that is. I see now that I have host controls. I'll do my best to stay on top of making sure I admit others as they arrive for this evening's session. So again, just a quick recap before we go forward. In cooperative leadership development, we really want to hit on our ability to be able to execute well, have confidence in being able to do so, the speed at which we do it, and then the resources to be able to move fast as new opportunities come our way. I was once told that success hinges on the speed of implementation. Success hinges on the speed of implementation. So I want to encourage you as well, challenge you that the takeaway from tonight's session, but any session that you're participating in, what are the takeaways that you can walk away from and find means at being able to apply those? Because your ability to be able to apply those quickly in turn shows you what type of success you can have from actually implementing those new tools that you have. So a quick agenda. We're going to go over pragmatic leadership. Okay, we're going to also touch on the core process of execution. And then we're going to close out talking about mental health and stress management. Okay, so again, pragmatic leadership, the core process of execution, and then mental health and stress management. Now, I appreciate the super warm welcome that I received from Dr. West. I've been very fortunate to work alongside of him for several years. One thing I thought was pretty interesting and would be very powerful in me sharing is just to give you all some more insight to my background. For the 20 years of really been committed to exercising high levels of passion for people, and not just people, but seeing people get the results that they want to get. Now, I will tell you, when you talk about being able to adapt, after 19 years, very recently, I just changed my career, complete industry change. For a long time, I worked in operations for a pretty large rental car company named Enterprise. So that's what I did prior to. Now I'm working with a company called Automatic Data Processing. That stands for, that's ADP. And believe it or not, in the United States right now, we pay 1 in 5 Americans. So when I say we pay 1 in 5 Americans, we are responsible for their payroll. So when they're counting on getting their paycheck, we help facilitate that process for them and what that looks like. So with ADP, beyond just payroll, we focus on something called human capital management. That's the industry that I'm working in now. Human capital management, the best way I can describe it is we help businesses do everything that happens on the back end, which is every reason why they didn't go into business. So I'll give you an example. If you know someone that does clothes design and they do an awesome job at making shirts and hats or anything of that nature, maybe you know somebody that has a great recipe and they own a restaurant. Well, as businesses grow, there's certain laws that start to take shape depending upon their size, right? So based upon their size, they have to be compliant. They have to, excuse me, adhere to other regulations to be able to stay in business. So everything that happens behind the scene to support that business is human capital management. So prior to ADP, I had a team of almost 165 employees. I helped strategically oversee things from daily operations, fleet management, sales, really digging deep into profit and loss statement review of a multi-million-dollar book of business. But the common denominator in all of it is people. And now working with ADP has just put me in a unique position to still be able to impact people, but just in a different scale. So right now I oversee a sales team and we help companies in the mid-market, which is anywhere from 50 employees to 149, to really help lift their performance in challenging markets, strategy creation and execution, and really help them with their short and long-term goals. As you can see, it says the builder. That is a moniker that I've taken on over the last several years because I'm very intent on building minds with minds like mine. That is something that I enjoy doing. It's part of what brings me here to be able to share this time and experience with you all, because just as I share, I'm looking to learn some things from you all as we have our engagement tonight and share things moving forward, and we really look to build each other. So pragmatic leadership. What is pragmatic leadership? So just even by definition, the word pragmatic, right, is being able to be practical in thought and what that looks like. And excuse me, I want to change this layout because I can't see. There we go. So pragmatic, right? So someone that's a pragmatic thinker, they focus on the processes behind any task, initiative, or goal. So someone that is pragmatic, their top priority is to figure out how the team is really going to be able to get things done. Believe it or not, pragmatic leadership has a negative connotation, a lot to do with the fact that most pragmatic leaders, they steer away. They turn away from most things that are theoretic, or that somebody just simply says, ideally, this is how it should happen. What's happening right now? Let's make a decision for the business based on things that are occurring right now. And so that pragmatic leader feels like they deal with things more sensibly and realistically in what is based on something practical rather than, like I said, theoretical considerations. So something that I would like to do, I do want to just open this up for dialogue. And like I said, I want this to be interactive. I don't want to just lecture for our time together. Please let me know what are your thoughts when you hear pragmatic leadership, or is there a question that comes to mind when you hear pragmatic leadership? Talk to me.
Well, if I could jump in there, when I hear that concept, to me, and it may not be accurate, but I get a slower pace of leadership, like a more thought out, a more slower pace, decision making.
I like that. If you don't mind me asking, Dr. West, what makes you feel like the pace slows down in that regard?
Just from usually the thought that comes in, not that thought is bad, because
Right.
thought is actually good, but sometimes there's so many different possibilities of the process that having to think through all of them can slow the process down. Just my 2 cents.
No, I like that. I like that. That offers an interesting perspective. And I'm glad you said that, because I think about when I was working with enterprise in a heavy operations driven environment, sometimes you had to make pragmatic decisions, but they had to happen in a split second. So sometimes you're making a decision that can cost thousands of dollars, really depending upon what that decision is, millions of dollars, and you might not have time to really mull over every single detail. But again, that's why leaders are placed into certain positions, because you have to be able to think quick on your feet. You have to be able to make decisions, sometimes with limited information. Anyone else? Don't be shy. Don't be bashful. I can start unmuting folks. Listen, I have no problem being a teacher. I see a hand raised. Okay, Ja.
So when I think about a pragmatic leadership, I think about a leader who preach what he or she practice. That is getting done what is said. That's what I think a pragmatic leader is.
I like that. So tell me a little bit more, John, when you said, Chris, you'll be next. Christopher, you'll be next. John, tell me what you mean by that when you said they practice what they preach. So if they say that they're going to do something, they're going to do it. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
According to what I feel, this is a leader who practicalize the actions. So if you want to achieve a work, he does not use words alone. He tried to see the work accomplished to a level he wanted to be. That's what I think they are.
I like it. I like it. Thank you for jumping out there and going next right after Dr. West. I want to applaud you for, being comfortable and unafraid to speak and share. This is how we all get better. Christopher, talk to me. How do you see this leadership style of pragmatic leadership?
Thank you, Dr. Briggs, for the recognition.
Sorry, Christopher, you breaking up on us, buddy. I think we might have lost you, Christopher. I'm sorry. If you wouldn't mind, Christopher, if you can hear me, you mind typing your comment or your thought in the chat, and then I can read from the chat and we can kind of try to go from there. Does anyone else want to share? I see it listed as Techno Spark. I'm not sure if that's your name, so I do apologize. Did anyone else have something they want to share? No problem, no problem. So look, what I want to also highlight is that there's a lot of different leadership styles. If you can, I know you're probably putting pen to paper. Okay, Perry, I see Perry. I can slow down. Perry, go ahead, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Cord. I understand pragmatic leadership or pragmatic leaders people who just being weird and prioritize realizing over idealizing, especially when it comes to being strategic and implementing or setting up goal.
I like that. So when you say when it comes down to setting a goal, what do you mean by that specifically?
I mean, when it comes to planning, for an example, if they want to do something, they're going to be strict to the point and about weird and not too much taken to how do ideas, and they just being straight to a point or to that plan of what they want to do.
I like it. I like it. I popped into the chat. Thank you, Christopher. I popped into the chat and I see where Christopher said, I know he was having trouble with his audio. He said, in his mind, a pragmatic leadership is about getting results as a result of going by a plan. I like that. Let's see. I'm going to read a couple other things from the chat. I see Dr. Dennison, Doe Davis said, I think pragmatic leadership has to do with the leader who works overtime. Okay. Pragmatics are driven, competitive, and they value hitting their goals above all else. This is awesome feedback. Awesome feedback. Let's see. Lauren said a leader who is passionate and interested deeply in getting the job done, going beyond what's rented, a hands-on leader. Mr. Momo Stevens, pragmatic leaders can sometimes seem to be so bossy because most times they tend to see the whole picture. Wow, great feedback, great feedback. Pragmatic leaders are practical thinkers. All of those are correct. I really, really appreciate you all's engagement and feedback because there's a lot of different ways for us to grow together in this regards. I cannot see a name. Again, it might be the device you're using. It says Techno Spark 7. So whomever that is, please feel free to unmute and share your feedback. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next. I see Jay Thalofius Peters. Feel free to unmute and share your feedback and share your thought.
Yeah, so like I said, pragmatic leaders, they are practical thinkers.
That's
They
right.
focus on the processes beyond any task, initiative, or goal. And one of their major top priority is to figure out how the team is going to get things done. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So we can move forward, right? And I appreciate you all participating. Let's keep that energy going. Let's keep that interaction going. Does pragmatic leadership always work? You can just put yes or no in the chat. Does pragmatic leadership always work? As you see it, what you know, what you feel, what you think, let me know, yes or no in the chat. Does pragmatic leadership always work? I see yes. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, I got a couple yeses. I got a couple, everybody's saying yes, a resounding yes. This is where I would love for anyone to feel free to ask questions now because I want to show you all something. I know Dr. West said, make sure that you were taking notes. It is true indeed. Note takers are money makers and the hand is the digital recorder for the mind. Please write down this website, leadership-agility.com. Leadership-agility.com. I will even type it in the chat for you so that you can have it. Okay. 1 second. It's leadership-agility.com. When you hear the word agility, to be agile. When you hear that word associated with leadership, what does that cause you to think of? What do you think that means to be agile when it pertains to leadership? Feel free. You can drop in the chat. You can come off mute.
You know, when I think of agility, it's the ability to move from one thing to another. And when it comes to leadership, it's almost like the ability to move through leadership styles or leadership thought processes to get a goal accomplished.
Nail on the head, Dr. West. I love it. To be hands-on. I see you, Mr. Stevens. Yes. Here's the thing. I want to encourage you all to check out that website, leadership-agility.com, because they did various studies, and according to them, according to leadership-agility.com, I'm sorry, Christopher, I had to mute you. It's a lot of heavy background noise. I think you might just have a tough connection. I really want to hear what you have to say, though. Yeah, if you can, Christopher, put yours in the chat.
Are you getting me now?
Ah, got you. There we go. Talk to me,
Hello?
Christopher. Yes. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear.
Christopher. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
I can
You hear me, right?
yes.
Okay.
You gotta love technology. Trying to help Christopher get unmuted here. Well, here's what I want to tell you guys, just so we can kind of keep going and not let the technology hold us back. According to leadership-agility.com, there's over 20 different types of leadership styles. There's supervisory, facilitative, demanding, encouraging, integrative, federative, autocratic, democratic, reflective, servant leadership, sovereign leadership, virtue-driven, value-driven, entrepreneurial leadership, executive, visionary, proactive, consistent, responsive, and pragmatic. Edward said agility is the ability to move quickly and easily. You're right. I want you to know every comment that everyone shared about being a pragmatic leader is very true. But I also want you all to understand, and Dr. West alluded to this, to be a great leader, we have to be able to find a balance, to be able to weave between all 20 of these different leadership styles. What you'll learn and what you'll see as you continue to forge your path as a leader, sometimes certain situations calls for a certain type of leadership. Or you can also learn that who you are as a leader might be heavily pointed in one direction of more of one leadership style than another, and that's okay. Everybody has a dominant leadership style, but what we have to be very careful of is the people that we're looking to lead. Are we in the correct style of leadership that is going to allow them to best respond to us? I'm going to say that again. Are we utilizing the leadership style that is going to allow the people we're looking to lead and influence the means to be able to respond to us? All of us have a dominant leadership style, just like our personality. We can't change who we are. The Most High God created us to be who we are. We are who we are. But as we grow and develop as people, just as we grow and develop as leaders, we have to be able to understand that agility in the leadership process is extremely important. depending upon those who we're going to lead. You know, I can be very demanding as a leader, but that doesn't necessarily mean it fits in that given situation that my organization needs or my team needs. Remember what I said earlier. If you turn around and nobody is following you, you are simply just taking a walk. And Lawrence said a great leader should be able to navigate through different styles of leadership depending upon unfolding circumstances to achieve organizational goals. That is very profound. And that is very, very spot on because it's the only way that it works. It's the only way it works. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but just remember, without the people whom you're leading, leadership has no place. Leadership has no substance. So therefore, those that you are leading, what do they need? And we have to be self-aware enough as leaders that we're willing and we're committed to grow every single day at developing all of these styles, all of these different ways of leading people for the time and place when that particular leadership style is most necessary for the people that we're leading and what stage or what process we're in within our organization. Does anybody have any questions about that? Or does anyone have any questions about how I've, learned to navigate through various leadership styles at all before we move forward? Please feel free to ask. That's why this time was given to you. I'm more than willing and would love to share. Jod, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, what I learned from you, leadership Cooperative.com says there are 20 different styles of leadership. And what I also learned again, a good leader should find a balance between different leadership styles. Now looking
Yes.
and taking into consideration 20 different styles of leadership, how do you find a balance? That's what I wanted to understand.
Yeah, that's a great question, John. I appreciate it. You know, it's a process. There's no way anyone will be able to get every single leadership style right away. There's really no substitute for experience. The one thing that I will tell you, John, that to me makes an exceptional leader is being able to be vulnerable. Sometimes people take on a leadership role, and I know I said it earlier, they can get a certain title and feel like, they're too good to talk to people or too good to have conversation. But I will say, for me, John, over my time in a leadership role, what's helped me more than anything else, the same time that I would do reviews or have one-on-ones with folks on my team, I always ask, what more can I do for you as a leader? What more can I do for you as a manager? And what I can tell you, Ja, you'll be surprised how honest people will be with you as a leader if they believe that you're sincere, if they believe that you are genuine. And so for me, what has helped me over the years is just being willing enough to be humble to ask the people that I'm leading, what more do you need from me? What more can I do for you in a particular situation? If I've been, more sovereign and I've needed to be more of a servant in my leadership ability, I've just simply tried to take a time and ask. And you know what, John, I can tell you, man, when you are willing to put yourself out there and put yourself in that position, you won't always like the feedback that you get. But then you have to take it upon yourself to be humble enough to say, hey, you know what? I am willing to get better. Ja gave me some great feedback. Let me find a way to put this into practice. And so over time, you start to develop these different layers of leadership, and you start to learn different ways to pull certain strings, almost like playing an instrument. You learn how to pull different strings on when to use what particular style of leadership. Did that help, Ja?
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Okay, you got it. Let's see. So in the chat, Dennis and David said, did I hear you say if you're leading and no one wants to follow you, you're just taking a walk? Will it be right to reevaluate your leadership style? You are 100% correct, Dennis. And that's why I said it. You know, that's one of the things that you have to be able to ask yourself as a leader. You know, am I going in a particular direction? And the people that I'm looking to lead, are they following me? And you're 100% correct, Dennis. And if you turn around and nobody's following you, you have to reevaluate your leadership style. But what I would encourage you to do, a lot to Ja's question and to his point, you want to be as proactive as possible. How can you get in front of turning around and nobody following you? You know, if I use that same analogy of taking a walk and wanting people to follow you, if your leadership is you walking in a particular direction at different increments, right? Different times during the walk, you want to stop and turn around and say, hey, is everybody okay? Do we need to take a break right now? Does anybody need water? Right? Because that's what a great leader is going to do. They're going to always check in with their team. They're going to always check in with their people to make sure that they're fulfilling the needs of their team in order for them to continue to be willing to follow. Good deal. So let's move forward a little bit here. And we already talked about which one is the most valuable. They all are. No one style has more weight than another. I'm going to say that again. No one of the 20 styles has more value than another. They all matter. It's just at different times, you have to have an ability to use that particular style. I'll go back to use that word of being agile, having the agility to move between the different styles, okay? Being able to be agile. The best leaders are the most agile leaders. That's going to always be the case. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. This was said by Walt Disney, the gentleman that created Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. And I just want to applaud you all right now for getting started. You know, you jumped out a change in platform. I know you guys were using the Google platforms before today, now using Zoom, and it created some different technical difficulties. Even Christopher having the technical difficulties that he had, but still trying to make sure he spoke up and shared and added value to our engagement tonight. And that's what a great leader does. I don't do a whole lot of talking. They're going to start doing it. Everything starts with taking action. And remember, as I told you, the root word of executive is to execute. And I want to applaud each of you all for finding a way to execute this evening. So that leads us to the core process of execution. What does that look like? What is the core process of execution? The core process of execution. The heart of execution lies in 3 core processes. Now, this pertains to execution being applied to an organizational structure, okay? This pertains to execution being applied to a business. The 3 core processes are the people process, the strategy process, and then the operations process. Every business or company uses these processes in one shape, form, or another. Now, I will tell you, a business's greatest asset and liability is its people. I gotta open it up for us to talk about that. So whether you put something in the chat or if you go ahead and come off of mute, talk to me. What does that mean? When I say a business's greatest asset and liability is its people.
Well, if I could jump in there, I think the biggest asset and liability being people is the most growth that a business is going to make is going to be on the human capital side, whether it's the people that work for the business, the people that bring in people to the business. Business is run by people. Now, the consequence to that is if they can create the biggest growth, they can also probably create the biggest detriment, because they can make problems that send away your customers, drive away business, bring problems to the organization, bring the organization's morale down. And so that's why you need leaders who can balance that equation and keep people on that even kilter, and maybe even develop them more so that they don't know. Because what I've found, Dr. Briggs, is when an organization hires people, they usually hire them for a skill set. They hire them to be able to do this job. But what they often miss, and what some leaders miss, is that you're hiring the whole person. And so they're bringing their issues, their outside problems, all those things to work. And a good leader has to create an environment that elevates the good and helps to negate the bad. My 2 cents.
Man, I love it. I love it. Dr. West has given us phenomenal jewels this evening. Listen, the greatest asset and the greatest liability is his people. Anyone else have a thought that they want to share? Or what does that mean to you when you hear that? Greatest asset or greatest liability? Even if you have a thought, being able to build off of something that Dr. West just shared. Anyone? So this is what I'll tell you guys. You cannot have a successful business without people. Dr. West said it best. Whether it's your customer, whether it's the clientele that you're going after, maybe you have a business and it's just you. You just do it by yourself. Well, guess what? You need people in some form of fashion. The other thing that I'll tell you about people being the greatest asset as well as the greatest liability, it also comes with a financial component. I can tell you right now, you can go talk to almost any company that's trying to grow to scale. I don't care what they produce, if they make motorcycles or they make cookies, and they need a certain number of people to facilitate that process. The most expensive item on their balance sheet, when they look at their numbers, it's going to be the cost of people. It's going to be the cost of people. But like Dr. West said, you hire the whole person. Right now, I'll share with you a very realistic example. The team that I've been charged to lead in taking on my new role, I need to have a total of 9 salespeople. Right now, I have 3, just 3 salespeople. If you ask me how many interviews I've done since November, probably done over 50 interviews, and we've only hired 1 person. You may be wondering, wow, like you have such a need, you need so many more people, and that is true. But you can never, ever compromise on the quality of person that you look to hire, because in an interview, you only have a short amount of time to determine, is this someone that you want to bring aboard your team? Is this someone that's going to help you carry out and execute your goals and what those things look like? So you have to be very careful in that hiring process. But here's something else that I know to be true. Whenever you hire someone and you have a new individual on your team, as a leader, please write this down. As a leader, it is your responsibility to see to it that you train that person, you develop that person, you coach that person, you motivate that person. And lastly, you hold that person accountable. Everybody hears the word accountability, and when they think about accountability, the first thing they think is it's something negative. Well, accountability isn't always negative. Accountability can very much be positive, because when you hire that new person, when that person is following and executing on the plans the way in which you intended for them to be, it's your role and responsibility as a leader to go and pat them on the back and say, hey, great job. That's exactly what we're talking about. I'm sorry, did somebody have a question?
As a leader, as a leader, you say as a leader, it is your responsibility to coach that person. You didn't end that phrase in my ear.
Okay, I think I heard you. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to also put that statement in the chat for everybody. So I'm going to type this in the chat right now. As a leader, okay, After hiring someone, I'm typing this in the chat for you, right? After hiring someone, it's your responsibility Give me 1 second, because I want to make sure you have this. To train that person, okay? It's your responsibility to train that person. It's your responsibility to coach that person. It's your responsibility to develop that person. It is your responsibility to motivate that person. And lastly, and hold them accountable. And what I was saying is that accountability isn't always negative, especially from a management world or a leadership world. People hear the word accountability and they automatically think the worst, which is true. Sometimes you will need to hold someone accountable, whether that's a write-up or what we call a performance improvement plan, because you have certain goals that you're looking to accomplish. And if individuals aren't moving closer and closer to what that goal is, then it needs to be documented so that ideally, with that documentation and accountability, you want to be able to change their behavior. However, if they are doing the right thing, if they are moving in the direction that you want them to move, if they are accomplishing their goals, it is your responsibility as a leader to make sure that you give them the positive feedback that they deserve, because they're executing, they're doing what you asked of them to do. So some other notes that we need to make note of, right? And we said that there's 3 critical pieces, right, to the process of execution. And we've talked about it. The most important part of the execution process is the people process. It is the most important of the entire 3 processes, okay? It's the people of an organization who make judgments about how markets are changing, create strategies based on those judgments, and then in turn translate those strategies into operational realities. If you don't get the people process right, you'll never fulfill the potential of your business. If you have any business that involves people, whether they're working for you, they're a part of your team, that dynamic has to be right. Morris, did you have a question or did you have a comment? You have to unmute yourself, Morris. I see, it looks like you're trying to talk, but I just can't hear you.
Can you get me now?
Yes. Seems like we having some internet trouble.
Hello?
Yep, I can hear you now, Morris.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've been actually having the feedback with my internet, but thank God I'm true. I want to ask this question. As a leader, I do believe that we work in a team, but we also believe that as a leader, you are a servant and you lead people. Do you think that you have the right to say and decide for the people? Why do I ask the questions? Because in our setting, there are leaders who just go and decide what the people want without consultations. So if you are formed part of some leadership and you do not want them to exercise.
I think I got you. You're starting to break up a bit, Morris, but I think I got the gist of what you were communicating.
Don't call it talks leadership. When you just sitting around, you see all of the such system.
Yes. So if I got the gist of what you were saying, and I apologize, Morris, because you were going in and out a little bit. you were saying that as a leader, at certain times we have to be a servant leader, correct? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
And if I
Yeah.
also heard, okay, and if I also heard you correctly too, you said that as a leader, sometimes when do we know when to be consultative or not be consultative, right? How do we make that decision?
No, let me repeat. I said, as a leader working with a team, and you have a set member of team that you work with who always decide for the people. And
I keep losing you, Morris, right before you get ready to give it to me. Morris, can you type it in the chat? Because I want to make sure I answer your question.
I believe before you decide for the people that do any consultations, how do you make a way through such thing? Because you are in a team where the other people don't want you to listen to the people, or you want to listen to the people and provide what the people want, not what you want for the people.
I think I got it. If I make a mistake, Morris, in answering your question, type your question in the chat for me so I can make sure that I have your question very clear so I can give you a very clear answer, okay? Because you were starting to go in and out a little bit, so
I
please.
typed my question there already.
Okay, you typed it already?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going back now to see it. Okay, I see it. Hold on. I believe leadership is about serving people. A leader good should always be willing to listen to the people that they lead, most especially when the safety and well-being is involved. Yes, very agree. But in our setting, you find people in leadership that the need of the people they lead without consultation with them. Can you kindly tell us what type of leadership style such a leader fall under? What can followers do to be a part of that decision making the process while under such a leader? That's a very, very, very powerful question. And that's a very challenging situation. You know, when I look back at the different leadership styles, you know, to me, I can see overlap between demanding sovereign leadership in terms of where those things come from. And so when you say, excuse me, what can we do as followers with that type of leadership style? I think there's a balance that has to be in place there, because for all of us, right? You know, within your country, just like in my country, there's a certain set of rules and parameters that we have to follow. Don't necessarily always agree with them. However, we still also have to find means where there's also smaller groups where sometimes we might be able to even insulate ourselves in certain ways to be able to move forward with even within our communities, to also be able to promote certain things that make it more healthy for those closer to us. Because sometimes we will be in situations when it comes down to government leadership and things beyond somewhat of our control. At certain times, we do have to fall in line with what those expectations are, but still find a way to be able to insulate those closest to us, whether that be our family, our community, or our loved ones, to see to it that everyone is able to still operate at a higher level, despite where there are some things that we don't always agree with. Dr. West, it seems like you wanted to be able to share something in that regard too.
If I may, if you don't mind.
Yes, please, please.
You know what, Morris, let me say this. Sometimes we fall in a trap where we have a manager in a leadership position. You catch that? Sometimes we fall in a trap where we have a manager in a leadership position. And then sometimes we get extra lucky where we have a leader in a management position. And managers, their job is to coordinate human and material resources. And so their style is not usually to get the input of other people, because they'll just go do this and put this there and then this is going to work. And but leadership takes on a different concept at times. I think Cori's right. I was in the military. and there was things that we had to do. And sometimes no one's going to consult you. They're going to tell you exactly what has to do. And they say, when I say jump, you say how high, but we understand that. So I think it's a balancing act, but if I may give you a suggestion, I had a leader or someone in a leadership position like that. And what would happen is they would tell us what we had to do. They wouldn't take it into consideration. But what I found worked with that kind of person is giving them information, even at times they didn't ask for it. And not in a way that I'm expecting them to do anything. What I'm doing is I'm giving them the opportunity. So we may have a project coming up, and I may write up this whole parameters around the project and just say, hey, I know you don't even need it. You don't even want it. You didn't ask for it, but I just wrote this up in case you needed it, in case you wanted it. And it would start to outline, here's some things to look at. Here's some things we talked about. Here's some ways we'd like to work. Here's some ways we'd like to be used. Obviously, it's your decision. Do whatever you want with the information. And I would always do that. And then what would happen over time, they never really changed their attitude. But they would say, hey, if you want to give me some information about that, I'll consider it. I'll at least look at it. In a way, what they were doing was inviting that input, because some people think it's a weakness to go ask the people. But what I was doing is saying, hey, look, sometimes people without training haven't been trained to come get the information. And so what I would do is I would share it automatically. I would just write it up, write out the parameters, kind of go over and beyond. And I learned that technique from Dr. Covey. And when he talked about the 7 habits, he had some audio programs. And I got that from one of his audio programs, and I tried it and it worked. So one of the things that you could possibly do is put the information down and give them the information and let them do what they want with it. Be very thorough. Be very thorough, and then don't be, it's not a threaten. And if they don't do anything with your information, it's okay. Because in the end, you're still learning. Remember, this is leadership training. And part of learning to be a leader is learning how you don't want to lead. And so it still works. And that's my 2 cents.
No, definitely. Dr. West, I couldn't agree more. I've always told people that I've worked with that when you are working with a leader or a manager, because Dr. West made a great point. There's a big difference between a leader and a manager. I've always said a leader is a person that inspires people to do things for themselves. Whatever that task is, whatever that goal is, a great leader has the ability to inspire others to be able to do something because they want to do it. A manager, that particular style, a manager just says, hey, look, you need to do it because I told you to do it. Like Dr. West said, hey, I tell you to jump. I just need you to act just how high. That's it. Let's go. And so I'll always encourage people, even with me, again, being vulnerable as a leader. You may not like everything that I do. I can only hope that I can learn to get better, but always create 2 bags. Create the bag of everything that you see that someone does well so that you can repeat it. Then take the bag of everything someone doesn't do well so that you can make sure that you don't repeat it when it's your turn to be in that leadership role. So again, the core process of people, as we look at that, knowing that, excuse me, the core process of execution as it pertains to the people process does 3 things. 1, it evaluates individuals accurately and in depth. You have to know who you're working with. You have to know what type of people you want on your team. To your point, Morris, you don't want to repeat the cycle of having certain type of leadership that you don't want to have in your organization. So you have to know what that looks like. The process of people also provides a framework for identifying and developing leadership talent needed to execute your strategies down the road. So as you all are learning to be leaders, it's important. Who are you developing behind you? Sometimes people get into a leadership role, the power of the title of being an executive overwhelms them so much that they get in their own way, Morris, and that they refuse to develop people behind them. Then there isn't a good leader to step in when they're no longer in place. There isn't a good leader ready to take the organization, company, country into a certain direction. So you have to be clear on what that developmental plan looks like. So again, the process of people, it fills the leadership pipeline that the basis of a strong succession plan. You always want to know who is next. Who are you setting up to move things forward as you continue to grow? So next, just looking at time, I know we started a bit late, so I want to kind of pick some things up here. The strategy process.
Okay.
The strategy is directly related to the people process because its strategy comes from the minds of the people. If a company has the right people, in all likelihood, its strategies will be in sync with the realities of the marketplace, the economy, and the overall competition. So listen, the basic goal of any business strategy is simple. We want to win customers over. Hey, look, we need customers to buy from us. And then we want to be able to create a sustainable competitive advantage. What can I do that my competition cannot do? And then while being able to do that, being able to make the most money possible for both myself and anyone that has invested in my business. So that strategy piece is critical. Now, why do strategies not work? Simply a lack of execution. Simply that, a lack of execution. Dr. West said it best when we even talked about being on one platform, switching to another platform. I mean, we could have allowed tonight's session to crumble, but that just wasn't going to happen. The leadership involved said, hey, look, what needs to be shared is too critical. We just adapt. We find a way to be agile within the process, and we still find a way to execute and be able to deliver to the students exactly what they need. Now, the third step in the core processes of execution is the operations process. The operation process provides the path for any organization's people. Now, the operation plan breaks down what the long-term goal is into smaller short-term goals so that incrementally we're going after that big long-term goal. So listen to this. As a leader, the leader's primary responsibility is overseeing this transition from strategy to operation. The leader is the one that's responsible, making for sure that goals get set. Then they link all the details between the operation process, the people, and the strategy. So as a leader, it would be your responsibility to tie all of these things together. So we talked about being able to make decisions on the fly, can't drag out certain decisions. You might not have overnight to make the best decision. So being able to think quick on your feet, and then what's that trade-off in the face of a myriad of possibilities and understanding. And leaders must have stout communication that promotes the truth. And when I say promote the truth about the organization, the operation, what's happening right now, because the only way it's going to be successful is with truthful analyzation about what is happening and what's not happening. So at the same time, a great leader is learning about their people and how to get the very best out of their people as they move forward. So please make note of this, right? As you're taking your notes, the first step in building a proper operational plan is to debate what the assumptions are behind the goals that you have created. So for example, who is your customer? What needs do they have? What is the competition doing? What is your value proposition? And is it good enough? Your value proposition means what value are you bringing to the marketplace? What value are you bringing to your customers? Okay. So there are three parts to an operational plan itself: being able to set the targets, develop action plans, and this means determining what's the trade-off between what we need to do long-term versus what we need to do short-term, and then securing an agreement and a commitment from everybody involved. Do you have the buy-in from the people that you're working with? Do you have the buy-in for them to truly help take things to the next level for you and your organization? Now, the third point and where we'll look to wrap up our interaction this evening is mental health and stress management. I have to tell you, I do not like the word stress, and I really do not even really believe in it. I don't subscribe to stress. And you may be saying, why? Why is that? Because stress is something that can kill you. I mean, people get so stressed out in life that it causes them to have physical debilitating diseases, heart attacks, you name it. Stress can kill you. I like to substitute the word stress with challenges. I would be lying to you if I said day to day, working in the corporate world, I didn't experience any level of challenge. That just wouldn't be realistic. But what I do understand is Wayne Dyer said it best. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I try to do my very best that anything that comes up that looks like stress, treat it as a challenge to allow me to get better as a leader and get better as a person. So let's touch on the mental health piece. Mental health and stress management. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and our social well-being. This affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, how we relate to others, and how we make choices. Our mental health is the very most important stage of, it impacts us at every stage of life, whether that's childhood, adolescence, and even as an adult. So our different experiences shape what that mental health looks like and how we go about our challenge management. I just want to say that our mental health is our most valuable asset as a leader. You might be asking, what do I mean by that? Well, listen, if you're no good to yourself, how do you plan on being good to someone else? Dr. West alluded to it earlier when we started and said, hey, look, when you hire people, you hire the whole person. But you have to ask yourself as a leader, are you whole? Are you doing different things to make sure that you have a full cup to be able to pour out and pour into others? That would be probably one of the most critical things I could share with you all this evening. And that is, what does that look like? How are you managing that part of your life? Because without it, we are no good as leaders. And so I want to share with you 5 ways to improve your mental health and your challenge management. The first is connect with other people. And when I say connect with other people, I don't mean just on social media. I mean, literally connect with other people. Or is there someone close to that you can get lunch with? Is there someone close to you can just simply go sit down and talk to, whether it's family or not family? Number 2, be physically active. You know, I'll share with you all that I've learned over time, you know, success leaves clues. We just got to be willing to pick it up. So I try to study a lot of high performers, a lot of successful leaders. And one thing that I found, they all have a consistent, very disciplined morning routine. And so I'll share with you all, like when I start my day, it all starts in the evening. I try to get all of my clothes and attire ready for work for the next day. And I go ahead and set my gym bag to the side. I have my shoes ready to go. And before the sun even comes up, and before anybody else in my house is moving around, I'm gonna make sure that I share prayer. I'm gonna take in my affirmations so that I have positive affirmations that I'm feeding to myself. I'm controlling my own mental program and what that looks like. Then I go into the gym. I step into the gym. I get a workout in, physically active. Listen, it doesn't matter if you walk for 10 minutes or you work out for an hour and a half. We have to be physical. Our bodies were meant to be in motion. But by doing that, it allows us to relax. It makes us happy. It reduces, it releases certain endorphins and dopamine in the brain that we feed off that helps us in our day-to-day activity. Very critical as a leader, because remember, there's those people behind us that we're trying to get to follow us. So there's a certain energy that we have to have that's greater than theirs that they can pull from. Then being willing to learn new skills. How many books do you read? Have you learned a different language? Listen, all of you all speak more languages than I do right now. That's something that I admire. I would love to learn some additional languages because it also helps keep the mind sharp. Give to others. And giving to others, this is something that we choose to do outside of ourselves, whether it's volunteering to take care of someone that just simply doesn't have something that you already have, or maybe it's a loved one, maybe it's an elder in the family that there's a project that they have that you can go help them with, and they didn't ask you to do it. These are all different things that can promote your mental health. And lastly, number 5, being present in the current moment, being mindful, being where you are when you're there, not allowing yourself to drift away or go somewhere else mentally, truly finding a way to be in the moment, be where you are when you're there. Because we live in a world where there are so many distractions, and sometimes the smallest detractor can take us away from where we are and where we should be. So in summary, is very multifaceted, just as we are a people. So leadership is multifaceted, just like we're multifaceted as a people. We must provide ourselves with the room and tools to allow ourselves to develop into the most agile and adaptable leaders as possible. Yet the most critical part of our development lies in our ability to maintain a balance in the challenges that come our way, both presented by our quest as leaders to be the very best we can be, or even maintain a balance to remain full as a person through the process. We are as only good to others as we find a way to be good to ourselves. I want to say thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to share with you all. I want to thank you for being willing to come off of mute, aside from the technical difficulties. I know somebody may say, hey, you know, it made it a little bit more rough or jagged. So what? That's the learning experience. That's how it goes. It's not always smooth to get to the crux of the matter. So again, I just want to say thank you very, very much for allowing me this time to share. Otis, thank you very much for allowing Dr. West to afford me the opportunity to share with you and your leadership development organization. And from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you. More than willing to help at any other time I can in the future. You all be sure to be great on purpose.
Fantastic, everyone. Do me a favor, Dr. Briggs, that was great, by the way. Fantastic information, fantastic interaction. Go ahead and post your comments. What do you think about the training from Dr. Briggs? If you liked it, let him know. If it was impactful, let him know. If there was something that you felt like you needed, let him know. I mean, it doesn't matter, but in the end, put it out there. But I think you said something that I just want to recap on. And you said that you said, thank you for coming off mute. And that really hit me because that's a real statement. And if you're going to be a leader, you have to come off mute. There's so many times that people want to lead in silence, and it doesn't work that way. And so leadership requires you to develop skills and abilities that you may not have had before you took the position. If you get a challenging employee or a challenging situation, that's great. You know, they say smooth seas do not create great sailors. It's only the difficult seas that teaches them how to sail. And so those difficult employees or challenging employees, challenging situations are the things that make you a great leader. And in those moments, you have to take yourself off mute. So Dr. Briggs, you did what I knew you would do, and that is bring some valuable content, some valuable information. And hopefully you take the time to go through the chat because you could see how much they appreciate the information that you shared, the content that you brought to the table. You're always a professional and you're always delivering information that makes people think. And leadership is about thinking. It's about creating new ideas, new opportunities, and new avenues to grow, not only for yourself, but to help your team as well. So thank you for that information. The comments are in the feed. We appreciate you. Otis, we'll go back over to you, my friend.
You got it there. I want to say this is mind blowing. You can just imagine, I'm just sitting back and listening. And this is just extremely powerful. This is just powerful. I'm actually excited for it. This is Brandon presentation tonight by Dr. Breeze. I'm actually excited. This is exceptional. And I want to believe that a lot of our students here from the comment section actually it reveals or display that they are captured something so powerful tonight. And they're going to use that as a tool to executing their duties and in their organization and moving forward. I'm actually excited. And some of the students are actually asking for the slide you just presented on tonight. And I just hope you're gonna get that to Dr. Ruben West, and then he can submit it to me, and then we can share the slide with the students so that it can be used as a reminder for them. Because every 2 weeks we're gonna do an evaluation, so probably they want to do some revision on that to get it going. But I just want to say on behalf of our um, executive arm, we are extremely grateful for accepting our invitation and serving as an international facilitator here tonight. I'm actually excited for that, sir. Thank you so much. I know you have a lot of busy schedule, but leaving that to me, share your knowledge here with our leaders across the continent of Africa is so phenomenal. It's so exceptional. I'm actually grateful. And I guess, like I said, they drink from your cup of knowledge. And I ask God, God continue to provide the basic knowledge and understanding and continue to, explore your journey because you are passionate about serving humanity and giving back. So we are actually grateful for this. And like I said, on behalf of our executive team and administrative arm, we want to say congratulations and thanks for your tremendous effort in getting this done tonight. Thank you so much. I'm actually impressed, Dr. Ambrise, for your splendid presentation.
Thank you. Truly my honor and pleasure.
Okay, that's great. So I think we can close up now. I'm trying to cut off the recording, and then we can just have maybe a closing. Dr. West, are you there? I don't know if there is anything we have to say before Dr. Bridge can actually leave out. I don't know.
All I want to say is that the people who showed up, it shows your dedication. It's late in the evening over there, and most people will make excuses as to why it wouldn't work. And some people have legitimate ones. The technology didn't work, the power went out. I mean, sometimes